Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Do you like fan theories? Do you like Five Nights at Freddy's? Well, today's video is going to have both of those because we are going to be watching MatPat's game theory, FNAF, the ultimate timeline. Now, as somebody who has played some of the FNAF games, as somebody who's had a vague interest in the lore but not really cared enough to really look into it, this is going to be an interesting one because I feel like I want to learn. I want to unify all my knowledge of Five Nights at Freddy's and see what it's all about. And who doesn't enjoy a bit of MatPat every now and again? Especially seeing his delightful appearance in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie recently. I feel this is a very fitting time to watch something like this. Something to make me understand the weird and wondrous universe, because as we all know, this franchise is certainly not something that makes itself easy to understand. And anyone that does understand Five Nights at Freddy's lore clearly has some kind of Pavlovian training and maybe a degree in analysis or something. But regardless, let's see what MatPat has to say.
19 books, 11 games,
Thank you for this follows, by the way.
whole years, all leading to...
Don't you say that. Hold on, I'm sorry. When did FNAF come out? I'm gonna feel very old, aren't I? 2014? 2014? Well, that's aged me.
To this moment, the ultimate FNAF timeline is finally complete. The pieces are in place for us. Now,
well, that is until the next game comes out,
tragedy,
inevitably.
Jealousy, and loss back together.
Because it seems like every time
Hello, Internet. Welcome
I can do that. Hello, Internet! I can do a MatPat impression.
to Game Theory.
Welcome
The show
to
feels
Game
like a kid
Theory.
revealing the class project that he's been working on all year. Except here, it's the class project that I've been working on for the past decade of my life. This one is big, my friends, and I gotta admit,
Mr. MatPat, it's only big because it's literally your entire income. Like, if it wasn't for your Five Nights at Freddy's fan theories, your channel wouldn't nearly have kicked off as much as it did. I mean, you're a good analysis dude, but let's face it, your Five Nights at Freddy's stuff is what made your channel what it was. And I don't think I can ever take one of these, like, ultimate timeline things seriously, because, like, at the end of the day, every time one of these comes out, there's always another one.
I haven't attempted a timeline video on this franchise since 2018. Back in the days when Mike was the crying child, Afton coming back was actually a surprise, and Fazgoo wasn't a phrase I'd ever thought I'd have to utter. But since the last time I did something like this, we've had 3 more
that's what the fans
games,
churn out when they
death
make fan
and
fiction for the
revival
game.
Of the FNAF movie, and
I've seen
more
enough
robot
thick
kids
body
than
to know
can
what you
shake a staff
degenerates are
bot
into.
ass. It is exhausting trying to keep track of this whole franchise, which honestly is why I'm here
You
today.
are far
The
more
lore
endeavored than I
at
am.
this point is complicated. It is full of speculation and theory, so to hopefully make it a
The thing
little
is,
easier
so
for
much of this
everyone and to
changes
give us
every
all
single time a new
baseline
game
talk
comes
about
out.
this
You can never have
franchise
any
moving forward into
succinctness
the
to it.
future. It's time to reveal my current working FNAF timeline. But just before I do, I just want to explain.
But remember, this is all just a theory. This is based off conjecture and analysis. It's not necessarily true.
A couple of things. First, this timeline is massive. Seriously, it is huge. This thing towers over any video project we have ever done on the channel. But when you look at the totality of this franchise, the story of FNAF really boils down to the story of one man, William Afton. His successes, his failures, his
Otherwise known
rise
as
to becoming
Shaggy.
co-owner of one of the most successful restaurant franchises in the world, and his eventual fall to the monsters he helped to create, only to then be reborn in a new digital
So
form
I
later.
get some of
That's
the,
why
like,
I've
the
decided to split this
bases
time
of this. Like, I know William Afton is very important, the purple guy. I know there's, like, a bunch of, like, murders and ghost inhabitants and stuff like that. I get like, the generality of things, but some of the more intrinsic parts are kind of a bit lost to me.
Into 3 main chunks: the foundation of Freddy's, how the business started and how it came into being; the Afton era, William's decades-long murder spree; and post-Purple Guy, basically modern FNAF, everything that happens after the pizzeria simulator fire. And because there are lots of new big revelations in this thing that seemingly come out of nowhere, as well as just points I want to talk about further, I decided to dedicate 1 episode to each chunk. I originally wanted it to be one seamless, continuous video, but it just felt incomplete without some sort of explanation at the end of each one. Once this whole thing's done, I promise I'm gonna merge all the narrative bits into one massive video so you can just skip my explanation.
Well, not that I specifically want to milk this entire thing, but I don't particularly fancy watching the entire video by itself. So we'll split it into the 3 separate parts, just for the sake of not taking up an entire 2 hours of your life. So we'll watch the individual parts, That way I get to monetize 3 separate videos, and you guys don't have to listen to me for 2 hours. It's a win-win situation.
But for now, this just felt like the best, most satisfying, most complete way to do
Foundations
this.
of Freddy,
That being said, this
Public
is
Era,
still
Era.
about the story, the broad strokes of the franchise. So in order to make sure that you guys know that I'm not just pulling answers out of thin air, not only am I discussing some of the more controversial bits at the end of each chunk, we're also putting in a handy little graphic in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, which will show thumbnails, video titles, books, and any other citations that we need throughout the video. So if you wish to understand that specific statement
you love
in
listening
more
to
detail,
2 hours?
you know exactly
yeah, but I'm not going to
where
sit
we've
here for
taken
2
it
hours
from.
in a
That way
single
you can look
sitting.
into
That'd be
those details for
crazy.
yourself. So sit back,
As
grab
much as
some
I love that.
popcorn or your pitchforks if you're the type to get upset when I say something controversial, and make sure that you subscribe, since this is going to be a video
the entire thing that fuels most reactionary content. You said something that doesn't agree with me. I'm going to type out angry nonsense in your chat, and I'm then going to watch every single video afterwards to prove how wrong you are. Only then realizing that actually helps the person making the content.
come back to a few times in order to fully dissect. Without any more waiting, I present to you the story of a loving, obsessive father who slowly descended into madness, and along the way, discovered the secret to eternal life.
Oh, that sound is giving me friggin' nostalgia.
Our story begins not in the 1980s, or even in the 1970s, but all the way back in the 1930s.
Okay, so he said this was the final video for the lore. It's certainly not the final video he was gonna make. Game theory, FNAF, help me solve the impossible. Yeah, he's still putting out some, what? He's also so self-aware! Theory cancelled. Game theory, why you hate my theories. Because that's just it. They're just a theory. A game theory. Interesting. Okay. Well, I feel like this is probably the most... So, we're watching this because I want the most, succinct overview of the entire thing. Because that's what I'm here for. I'm not here for specifics. I'm here for the overview of the entire thing. And I think this is still the best one for it. I might be wrong, and if it is, I probably won't upload this, but still.
People were in desperate need of cheap entertainment, especially in Utah, one of the states hit hardest, 4th highest unemployment in the nation, and full of transients. People looking for work in Salt Lake, finding none,
See you later,
and
Hexia. Have a good one, buddy. Everyone say goodbye to Hexia, please.
California. People were tired and they were hungry, but as
Yo,
they
I'm
traveled,
tired
there
and
was
hungry right
one
now.
thing that could lift their spirits: a simple
Food.
roadside attraction called Fredbear's Singin' Show. The ads were plastered all over town.
I mean,
featuring
kind of.
an animated bear drawn in the popular pie-eyed cartoon style for characters at the time. He resembled cartoons like Mickey Mouse, Felix the Cat, Betty Boop. It immediately
Also known
said
as
that
Rubber Hose
this,
style.
Fredbear's, was a place where you could bring the family. And the price, honestly, couldn't be beat. For 50 cents, you could get food and entertainment as you
Yo,
watched
I want a
the
hot
local
dog.
trained
Guys,
real-life
can somebody, like,
dancing
spot
bear
me
perform on
$500
stage.
so I can go
Normally,
and
you
glut
only got to
myself
see
at
dancing
Pizza
bears
Hut.
at large traveling circuses like Barnum and Bailey, where the tickets would go for about $1. And that's $1 without food. But this was a smaller show.
Yo, Lord
like the type
Dials,
from
thank you for the
Devon
follow.
Brothers
How you
or
doing,
the
dude?
Robbins Brothers, where tickets would sell for just a mere 50 cents. Watching that bear do tricks on stage
Yes.
brought a glimmer of
Inflation.
joy at a time when
So
so
50
much
cents
was
back
wrong
then
with
would
the
probably be
world.
about
The simple show would
$500
go on
now.
for years.
Yeah, that
bringing
holds up.
happiness to
$500, guys,
hundreds
come
of
on, catch
travelers
up.
passing through looking for a quick meal.
$500
But it left
would be
a
enough for my
permanent
starter at
impression
Pizza Hut.
on one
'Cause
little
I'm
boy,
hungry.
capturing his imagination in a way that nothing else had. One little boy named Billy. That was
Billy!
his nickname at least,
Fuck
but
Billy!
his parents like to call him William. William F.
God damn
The
it,
bear
shut
could
up,
dance,
Billy.
could sing. For
Why is
decades,
Billy gotta be
William
everywhere?
dreamed of recreating that moment of bringing a musical bear to life, but how? William was smart, without a doubt, and he had a keen mind for business, but he wasn't the most creative. How do you make a singing, dancing bear come to life? The best he could do was
Robots.
using rudimentary costumes. William was inspired by the work of Walt Disney, who
I mean,
throughout
that
the
is
50s and
a
60s was
comparison a lot of people make. Obviously, animatronics are a big thing. Like, you look at Chuck E. Cheese, for example. It's that entertainment value. It's that enthrallment, that immersiveness. Even if the uncanny valley makes you really grimace at the thought. And there's a phobia, and for the life of me, I can't remember what it's called. But it's where you're afraid of like mannequins and anything that looks kind of humanistic but has the uncanny valley trait. I'm not sure what. I'm sure someone will tell me what it is, but I have that. I'm terrified of mannequins. They fucking creep me the frig out.
pioneering the use of mascot suits throughout his theme park. The big innovation? Suits with 5 fingers. This allowed the performers wearing the suits to use their natural arms and hands to interact with the guests, as opposed to the older models.
But as years have gone by, I'm glad they don't look quite as horrifying anymore.
Finally, with a simple mascot suit, he would be able to realize his childhood dream. He would be able to bring Fredbear to life. To appeal to the kids, and for copyright reasons, he changed Fredbear from a realistic brown animal to a cartoonish yellow bear with a purple hat and bow tie.
It's Golden Freddy!
Like one character wasn't enough, he added another friend, a yellow rabbit with a purple vest.
It's
and
the bunny that everyone keeps turning into a femboy.
Well, Fredbear was certainly his first love. Bonnie was extra special because that was his. It was an original character that he had created from scratch. And I do mean scratch. William's hand-sewn costumes were rough with seams and stitches visibly showing.
The internet has kind of otherwise soiled this character for me.
Bonnie and Fredbear would perform on stage to small
but
enthusiastic crowds.
Bunny?
Finally,
Why must we
lewd
everything?
Fantasy and fun to
Why
all
must
the
the
kids,
internet be this
delighting
way?
and inspiring them in the exact way that he had been delighted and inspired so many years ago. And things
See, I would love to go to one of these kind of places.
The
like, if I ever go to America, I'd love to go to a Chuck E. Cheese.
Had it not been for one thing. Other people saw the success of his idea, and they wanted in. Enter Chica's Party World, a rival restaurant starring transforming animal characters. His idea,
the most
did it better.
fan
William
service
may have been
character
the first,
in the
but
FNAF.
obviously he wasn't the best. It hurt the pride of
Autonomophobia?
William after
Oh, is that
to
what it
admit
is?
but this restaurant
Okay.
was able to do the thing that he always wanted to do, make the animals actually come to life. All of the performers in this restaurant were robots, simple metal skeletons that were powered by battery packs, but all of them able to freely turn and talk and dance on their own, no human required. It was like magic that came from the mind of a
Why do you
brilliant
lust after
creator
inanimate
named
objects?
Henry
The same
Emily.
reason why
In
people
some small
lust
way,
after
had been able to harness
VTubers,
the power
because
of
people are
life
desperate.
itself. Afton admired him. He was jealous, to be sure, but he also looked upon this man with awe. Off to one side of Chica's party world was a small cabaret stage featuring an elephant magician. On the other, a hippo known to ramble on and on. That one was more of a joke
yeah,
for
these
parents.
guys.
But it was the main stage that was for the kids. A rocking band of characters featuring a yellow chicken thing with a southern
I get that it looks grubby and it's designed to be a bit grotesque, but who looks at that and says, yup, that's good for the kids? Yeah, the kids are gonna love it. That's definitely not horrifying in the slightest. But I suppose that kind of look. I suppose that's kind of why Scott Cawthon made them like this, because they do look kind of terrifying. Like, they are designed to be a bit more exaggerately grotesque. The eyes are sunken in. The skin is all mottled and rough. The mouth is just open just that little bit too much to make it not look good and appealing. Like, in any real world, you would never have an animatronic that be this disfigured.
drawl named Chica, backed by a band of other country-themed characters, including a pig with a banjo, an upbeat frog from the local swimming hole, and a brown bear with a heavy southern accent.
Well, this doesn't look anything like my modern Five Nights at Freddy's.
Bears were his animals. Why not a cow or a horse? Something to fit the country theme a bit better. Why did it have to be a bear? And adding insult to injury, they had the nerve to call this thing
Freddy?
Ned Bear, a direct copy of his own Fredbear.
Whoops, that's gonna leave a mark.
Plagiarism.
No, that was not okay. Afton.
Funny thing, this is actually based on some semblance of reality. Plagiarism is the biggest crime that is the most unpunished. In the modern era, plagiarism does not get recompense. It is not something that is punished very often at all. In fact, in the last 20 years, there is only maybe 2 or 3 examples that you can pull upon of people getting plagiarized and then actually winning a lawsuit against the people who plagiarized them. And it's the thing, because there's no rules, there's not really many rules in place. And the problem is that most of the people who do the plagiarizing are the people who are financially stable enough to do so. Because it's like the idea that they would spend $1 million to handle a lawsuit to snuff out the people that they stole from in the first place, to then make $5 million later from the revenue they make from the movie. It's like you're so wealthy, you just can't. You're too wealthy to not succeed, basically.
Jealous admiration turned to hardened bitterness. A bitterness that would only grow over the next couple of years as families continued to choose Chica's party world over Fredbear's. William just couldn't compete with the appeal of the robots. Eventually, his restaurant would go bankrupt, only to get bailed out by, of course, Henry Emily. Another insult. Another humiliation that William wouldn't soon forget. 1979.
No wonder the purple guy's
Despite being
so
bitter, Afton
jaded
could
and
deny that
angry.
what came next was a period of massive success and expansion. With the two franchises now merged into one, it was the best of both worlds, Afton's ideas with Henry's robotic expertise. The two men decided to launch under a new name, Fredbear's Family Diner, a pizza chain that would eventually come to feature a mix of humans in performing suits as well as on-stage animatronics. They decided
this is some of the stuff I never really knew about. I had it, like, I have it. Everything that I know about the FNAF universe has all been predated from the games for the most part. I've seen some stuff here or there from MatPat, some other like smaller videos about like the backstories for things, but I've never had like a just one unanimous video kind of summarizing everything. So this is a really cool thing, getting to see some of this kind of stuff, because it makes a lot of the stuff I've seen in some of the Five Nights at Freddy's games actually make way more sense.
Bear as the headliner, considering the yellow bear was easily identifiable as a brand because he was the original performing animal mascot. Afton appreciated that. This new restaurant would also see a mix of characters as the two franchises merged.
So this also explains why the
animatronics
were all mixed in with each other.
Fredbear and Bonnie. And as part of this
that makes so much more sense.
Fredbear family, they even got themselves official merch that were released, ranging from masks to magnets.
The crappy Mr. Hippo fridge magnet?
I'm sorry, Gregory.
That said, not all the characters were winners. The reception to some characters was just mediocre, so they faded away into the dumpster.
Story's a mess. I mean, obviously.
And retro budget tech stores of lost nostalgia, waiting for their chance to step back into the limelight.
But it's like having
like commission.
Okay, so the entire story might be an absolute mess. That's very true. But here's the thing. These kind of videos try to make sense of the mess, and you're never going to get a complete, concise image of everything, because let's face it, Scott Cawthon isn't that smart. He lost control of his own story years ago, for the sake of convenience, for the sake of making things that made money. So really, people like MatPat are just trying to make sense of the nonsensical, which is a very, very, very draining thing. And you can understand why he's probably aged about 20 years in the process of doing this.
Though would fare much better, like a new pirate fox as well as a blue guitar playing variant of the yellow Bonnie Bunny. Ultimately, the franchise would get so big it would spawn its own cartoon show, Fredbear and Friends. Business was booming. In the end, Fredbear and Bonnie's popularity would be so strong,
are you kidding?
They would be able to support the Fredbear's Family Diner franchise all on their own, while also spinning off a new sister location dedicated to their friends.
Whoa, I get that reference! Yo, sister location, yeah, roll credits. They said the thing, I get that reference.
1983, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza launched, giving a dedicated home to all this new supporting cast of characters. Chica the Chicken, Bonnie the Blue Bunny, Foxy the Pirate, and of course the headliner, a brown Freddy Fazbear. Business was good, and Afton was
so
happy,
what about the bite
mostly.
of 87?
It did bother him that the one original character that he created, the one that he himself played, Golden Bonnie, got passed over for inclusion in that cartoon show. The only character in the roster of regulars to get ignored for the show, but other than that, things were going smoothly. He had himself a wife, 2 sons, a daughter. He had a thriving business, and best of all, he was able to learn the craft of robotics from a man that he both loved and hated.
Glory, success, all the things that 99% of VTubers don't have. Please, could someone donate but a crumb of pizza?
Together, they were constantly pushing the limits of what these characters could do. Because it was quick and easy, new characters introduced into the roster would be given a simple hand-sewn suit with 5 fingers that any performer could wear. Eventually, Henry would design one of his signature animatronics for that character, utilizing a divided mouth with either a hinged or sliding jaw design. This was the first generation of animatronics.
And they were horrifying.
Afton had big ideas.
I will say, the Rockstar animatronics and the toy animatronics, chef's kiss. Beautiful. Horrifying, but beautiful. I cannot play a single Five Nights at Freddy's. In fact, the only Five Nights at Freddy's game that doesn't give me that sense of phobia or, what's it called? The phobia or the, Uncanny Valley effect is Five Nights at Freddy's 4. But that is because the animatronics in that are so monstrous that they don't even look like animatronics anymore. So that's just scary because it's scary.
What if the animatronics weren't just locked to the stage, but could freely roam the restaurant and interact with the kids?
Who came up with that idea? You want Skynet? That's how you get Skynet. Thank you, Nuba, for the $25. Well, I guess I'm getting pizza for dinner then.
Metallic
But
skeletons.
what
Why not
flavor
experiment
pizza?
with tubes
Guys,
and
what topping
wires
should
that
I
would give
get?
the animatronics fluidity and
Anyone that says
flexibility while
pineapple's gonna
still
get shot out of
providing
cannon.
structure? The possibilities for this
Minecraft.
technology were endless. Afton fell in love with robotics. He had started with a dream of bringing one simple singing bear to life, but with robots, he had stumbled across the tools that gave him the ability to control life itself. And thanks to Henry, he was practically speedrunning.
Yo, thank you for the organic tier 1, Lord Dials. Thank you. You both have just
His way
pushed the
to an
timer back
engineering
up. I hope you're
degree.
happy.
And while William wouldn't admit it out loud,
not above
one other
200
thing that
hours.
kept
Get
pushing him
wrecked.
forward was the desire to beat his former
Enjoy your
rival,
emote,
to
Dials.
prove himself
Enjoy your emote.
smarter
Thank you so
and
much.
more
It's very
capable,
kind.
to surpass the man who everyone else considered to be a visionary genius. But pride
Genius.
cometh before the fall, and tragedy was about to strike. Okay, so that brings us to the end of part 1 of the story. That said, at the end of each of these chunks, I want to break down some of the logical leaps that I made, since the more narrative format doesn't give me much of a chance to justify a lot of the big decisions. And admittedly, there are some large leaps in here. Let's just start off with Fredbear's Sing and Show, shall
Like,
we? We
so,
know, based on the retro poster,
what MatPat is doing, right? So let's just use my amazing paint skills here a second. Let's just take a moment to understand what MatPat is doing in a visual sense. So let's just say, for example, you know, let's just say, where are we? Let's go here. Let's just say that each of these squares are. Let's just say that each one of these squares are a plot within Five Nights at Freddy's. You know, it's pretty obvious that each of these squares have their own preface, their own lore sentence, their own kind of like contingent, their own little beast, as it were. And essentially what MatPat is doing, let's get one more here, is being a sexy bitch. I mean, obviously MatPat's a sexy bitch. MatPat is taking all of these content islands, all of these plot threads, all of these different colors, and if we just have the what color haven't we used? Let's just say this let's say this yellow is MatPat. MatPat is reaching out his long, slender tendrils, and he's grabbing onto these things, and he is worming them all together, and he's looking at them and saying, well, yes, these are content, this is story. And then he's trying to, you know, connect them all together in a investigatory fashion. Yes, this connects to this connects to this goes all the way over here. He is bringing it all together. It's a mess. And there's only so much you can bring these together because they're not quite the right shape to actually fit together perfectly. So what he's ending up doing is, because he can't make these fit together so well, he starts patching them. You know, so he starts patching them, creating small jumps and assumptions and sort of creative liberties to hope that it makes it make more sense. And although he's never going to truly get the perfect picture of whatever Picasso art this is, he'll have some semblance of what it would look like. Not too dissimilar to how AI art works, but that's a different story.
that was hidden in Security Breach, that at least at one point, Fredbear was an actual bear. And like I called out in that narrative segment, dancing bear shows
what's a
were
worse
real
decision?
form of
Making
entertainment.
robotic
The only problem is
animatronics in the
that,
shape of
timing-wise, none
animals
our main characters
with
would
their
be the
own
people
artificial
in charge of
intelligence,
that business
or
in the 30s, and a series of
actually
pizza
having a
restaurants
live
in the 80s
bear
without him just being
performing.
extremely old.
Both of which
Best
have
case
the same
scenario, if
sentiment for
Afton's
death.
running the singing show when he's 18, that still puts him at nearly 70 when the first pizzeria
Jesus!
opens and his murder spree begins. That just doesn't make a lot of logical sense because he doesn't become immortal until his first death in Springtrap. That's why I suspect that Fredbear's singing show was either a family business
Yes.
that Afton then carried on to a new generation, or something that he saw as a kid and just wanted to recreate when he grew up.
Yes,
The
that's what
Fredbear
I
singing
think.
show thing also starts laying the groundwork for some of the core elements of this story. That Freddy's was a place of
Time
fantasy
is
and
an
fun,
irrelevant
and that
concentric
Afton, despite
circle
eventually
that makes
falling
no
to
sense
become
because
the
it's made of
heartless
spaghetti.
serial killer and mad scientist that we know him as, began as someone with good intentions and a love of entertaining entertaining kids. He wanted to bring
Just
things
like
to life from
McDonald's.
the very beginning, a theme that recurs a lot for him throughout the rest of the franchise. Next up, let's talk about those mascot costumes. One thing that I keep going back to is the design of Glitch Trap. It's a handcrafted suit. You can see the seams and everything. It even has 5 fingers for the performer's
Gonna eat
hand.
that
It is
spaghetti? I'm
very
gonna eat
much
you like
not
spaghetti,
a
Celia.
Springtrap suit. This is something much more rudimentary. It came at a time
hungry.
before animatronics were a part of
want
the story.
food.
That's why I suspect that it was actually the first, predating literally everything. It's also a suit that is very personal to Afton. He put his digital consciousness in that form.
gonna really
It's
quickly
his
see if I can
personal
find something in a
avatar.
hot
It's
second.
the way that he sees himself. There's also a whole separate discussion to be had here about the habits and rituals of serial killers. So the fact that he's choosing to lure kids and kill them in this particular suit actually says a lot about his emotional
I'm just gonna put it
attachment
out
to
there,
So while Fredbear seems to have started as someone else's creation,
I want to take a moment to appreciate how real this is. Somebody made, and there have been multiple people who have made some very how shall we put it? Convincing costumes.
Just came to recharge mode now, my friends. So sorry to disappoint you if you've been waiting. But Vanessa, I am a material girl.
Isn't that so cool? His spring trap is haunting. Dude, I see that dude. If I see this walking down the street towards me, I'm pulling out an M16 and blowing it away. Like, I am not letting Five Nights at Freddy's out onto the world. Like, imagine if you're just some random dude and you see this thing walking towards you. You're gonna think rapture's come. Oh, Lord have mercy! Lord have mercy! Oh, God! Demons are walking amongst us, Charles! The hell has overwashed onto this planet! Charles! Charles! But Vanessa, I'm about to pop the gritty. Look at this. Look at how cool this is. This is a thing you can wear. And apparently someone in my chat actually got to be there to see it, which I'm now incredibly jealous of, and I want you to put the picture on my Discord so I can have a look. In fact, Kaylin, if you can put that on my Discord, I'll put this into the YouTube video. And that way you can get some internet
This seems to
stardom.
imply that all of the main characters had similar wearable mascot outfits at least at one point in time, and that whoever is having the FNAF 4 nightmares, if they even are nightmares, something that
I'm
we'll
under the
touch on in
impression
part
they're not
2, saw
nightmares.
those
They're just a
mascot
fever
suits
dream.
Specifically. Lastly, we have to talk
Same
about
thing
the
though, right?
elephant in the room, the literal elephant, Orville Elephant, as well as the rest of the Mediocre Melodies. For a while now, I've suspected that the Mediocre Melodies played a much more important role in the story than just being a bunch more animatronic.
I think what I started falling away from the universe when they started. So I kind of got up to Five Nights at Freddy's 4. That was like I played 1, 2, 3, 4 really vigorously, but then it got to Five Nights at Freddy's 5 and the things that came after, and with the addition of like the FNAF universe and FNAF world, and the like what was that Five Nights at Freddy's where it was like an actual diner simulator? Because that one. There was so much that started coming in at that point that I could not keep track of it. And I only have so many brain cells I can use at a given time. And when it started getting that convoluted, I just completely fell away. I could not keep up with it anymore. So this to me is very
especially
perplexing.
Nedbear, which is just so
Nedbear.
suspiciously close to Fredbear. And yet, there are 2 key details that we're gonna have to justify with any Mediocre Melodies mention. One, they're very rudimentary with external battery packs, implying that they come very early in the timeline. And 2, we know that at minimum, Mr. Hippo does eventually become an official member of the extended Freddyverse. But if these things are supposed to be cheap, generic
Oh God,
ripoffs, why would
after
you be
just
trying to
watching the
rip off
Skibbity Toilet
yourself? You
multiverse,
wouldn't.
I don't
You would
even
be
want to think
stealing
of an
someone
idea
else's
that there's a
idea. So
Five
if
Nights at
Afton
Freddy's
created
multiverse out
Fredbear, there
there.
would have to be some
No,
rival
wait.
franchise.
I've seen some of the Five Nights at Freddy's fan movies made in Source Filmmaker. That exists. That totally exists. What am I talking about? Of course it exists. The amount of people I know with Five Nights at Freddy's personas is ridiculous.
The only other person who would likely be ripping him off, Henry. We've talked extensively about how the Mediocre Melodies
All
are
best
clearly
laid
Henry's
plans.
design aesthetic. So it just has to be him.
Plans
I don't
upon
think Henry is
plans.
doing this maliciously. He doesn't strike me as the type. He was likely building the robots at the orders of someone else that was running a rival restaurant franchise. But that's
Hey guys,
enough
should we play
motivation
Five
to
Nights at
start
Freddy's 4?
Afton down a path of jealous rivalry. But
Or should we
also
play one of the Five
begrudging
Nights at Freddy's?
admiration. As the Freddy Files Ultimate Edition says, it's important to revisit the beginning of Henry and William's relationship, so here you go. I think this this is where it begins. Also, this is future Matt Pat here coming back to add this one in.
Hi,
Seems like
Matt
the
Pat.
recently released character encyclopedia has backed up all of this speculation. I've had this timeline written for about a month now, but I've also been holding off a bit to see what wrenches this character encyclopedia might throw into it. And on this particular point, I gotta say, it seems like we might actually have nailed it. They actively call out the suspicious similarities to the main Fredbear crew. Quote from one of the pages: Ned Bear looks like an imitation, altered just enough to avoid copyright
Alright guys, I'm putting up a
issues.
poll.
I
Whichever
don't know about
FNAF
you, but
you want me
that
to
seems
play,
imply
vote,
that we
and
were
we'll see which
right
one we
on
do.
money. Knowing all of this, at one point the franchises had to have merged. That's really the only way that you get Mr. Hippo from the rival franchise as part of the Fazbear crew. This also
that makes
mirrors
sense.
a lot
Like,
of what happened in the real life
okay,
history.
so this is why as much as people may not like his theories because it goes against what they think, and at the end of the day, a theory is just that, it's a theory, it's not concrete, it's not saying that's definitely what it is, and getting upset over somebody's theory is like getting upset at just having like an idea. And realistically, if you're that kind of person, go fuck yourself, because people are allowed to have their opinions. You don't have to agree with them. You just have to respect that people have their opinions. But the reason why I like this guy's opinion, the reason why I like Matt Pat's videos is because they are very succinct and they're very well articulated. For me, an idiot, someone very low IQ with ADHD out the wazoo, I need things explained to me like I'm a child. So Matt Pat making their videos very consumable is much appreciated. Because, like I said, I stupid.
History of Chuck E. Cheese, with two rival
Maride.
restaurants, each with their own casts of
And
characters,
Black Magic, thank you
merging
for
to
the resub.
become one unified brand.
Oh,
we've gone into that.
Okay, you want an example about what I hate about animatronics? That right there! That is the creepy Chuck E. Cheese looking bullshit that No! 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 That's my phobia. That is my phobia right there. That fucking, oh god, that, somebody get a gun. So, Hans, get the Flammenwerf. No, Hans, the heavy Flammenwerf. We've got to destroy it. Oh my god, that's actually terrifying. Like, it's that horrendously uncanny valley just mixed with monster, like, mannequins scare the shit out of me. Animatronics, on the other hand, are infinitely worse.
In detail with other videos, just
Like,
wanted
this
to
is
remind you all
some.
of that here.
Oh,
but why would I call the rival
ew.
restaurant as being named Chica's
Like, this is
Party
like one
World?
step
Few
away
things,
from an
actually.
ARG
First, we
of
know
sorts.
for a fact that a location named Chica's Party
Oh,
World
you nuts at
exists.
that, you disgusting
It is mentioned
perv.
in the source code teasing sister location, so it is out there somewhere and doesn't fit cleanly anywhere. Second, in the story The Puppet Carver, Chica is very explicitly looped in with the book versions of Pig Patch and Ned Bear, implying that she started as a mediocre melody. Thirdly, her design just fits better with the theme of down home country animal.
That kind of makes sense, because you can imagine that the head was probably different at some point and had a different, like, upper or different lower.
With southern accents, playing the banjo and eating with bibs. And with her being the headliner of the show with her name on the restaurant, it would make sense then that when the restaurants merged, she was the one that was added to the main cast of characters while all the other mediocres faded away. It's also why when Freddy's closes after William's killing spree, she's the one to branch back off into her old franchise and is therefore missing in sister location. A detail that's bothered me for years at this point.
Funtime Chica could kind of be kind of thick, though.
It might also explain why William decided to stuff his first dead kid into Chica. That one was Henry's.
That line! I'm just gonna stuff my dead kid inside this animatronic. Dude, in no world is that a line you ever want to say? Yo, Jimmy, what are you doing? Oh, nothing, just stuffing a kid inside this animatronic. Did you make Warframe guides? I did, yes. That's what started this channel back in the day.
His creation, not his.
Which,
Is
if
all
you
of this a
aren't,
big
you guys
leap?
should go
Is it
check out my
connecting
main
a lot
YouTube
of
channel.
dots that are very
I want to make it apparent, my main, and this is to YouTube as well, my main YouTube will start getting activity on it, but only once my donathon is over and I have the brain power and depresso gone away enough to actually put time into actually making some content. So until then, we have my secondary channel to put some React Andes out so that I can get some cadence of content so people can actually know I exist in this world.
spread out across the franchise that I've been holding on in the back of my mind for years? Absolutely. But I think it makes sense.
In fact,
it also
you can still
serves
get my
as a
guides on
clean
Twitch.
answer to a lot
Type
of the
if you type
random
of
threads
Warf
that Scott's
exclamation
been
mark followed by a
leaving
Warframe.
dangling for years. So with all of that in mind, my friends, we can close the book on the foundation of Freddy's. And don't worry, next week I'll be back to give you arguably one of the most confusing parts of this entire timeline situation, part 2, the Afton era. I promise it will actually be next week this time. No more waiting around. I am just as eager to get this one out the door as you are to watch it. I promise. You know what else I promise? I promise that we'll actually get to talking about the games. I would have liked to have talked about them in this episode, but there just isn't that
There's
much
too
in the
much,
games
and
that
this is
helps
why
us
I'm
to
splitting
pick
this up.
anything
I will react to all of these videos, and I will get like by the time we're done with MatPat, I will have a full woke understanding of this franchise. I will be educated, just like how I got educated with Warhammer. And then 5 minutes later, I'll completely forget everything because I have the memory retention of a monkey. Yeah, so I hope you guys have enjoyed the video.
Diner. Although, let's be honest, this franchise has never been just about the games anyway. Even back in the early days of FNAF, we were decoding images and source code that Scott fed us through the website. The modern day books and the clues that we get from those things, now they're just modern extensions.
Okay, that animatronic, there does come a line. There is a line with animatronics where, yes, they're terrifying, but are they sexy enough to counterweight the levels of horror that I'm feeling by looking at them? Because, you know, this animatronic, yeah, it's kind of creepy. It gives me the uncanny valley feel. But she do be kind of thick, though.
Extensions of that. All of it.
Lacking a jaw, though, so head potential,
Unless,
head
of course,
game would
Steel
be
Wolf
very
finally
low.
gets around to making that Fredbear's Family Diner game they want to make so badly.
I've always would love to do is get kind of back to. I don't know if we'll ever be able to do this, but getting back to kind of like the origin of like Fazbear Entertainment or the origin of Freddy Fazbear.
But in the meantime, while we wait for that inevitably cryptic game, I hope that this start to the timeline helps to fill in some of those gaps. I'm excited to share part 2 with you next week.
Cool. Well, thank you, MatPat, for sharing that, and I hope you've all liked this. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you leave those comments. Make sure you leave a like on the video. Come by the Twitch side of things, because Twitch chat here have been cringely trying to encourage you all. Like, guys, I don't know if you know this on the YouTube side of things. Twitch chat here laugh at you, because you guys get to watch this later. Twitch chat get to watch it in the moment and actually berate me and make me look like a fool and then make me have to spend 2 hours editing a video that should just be a direct upload. Isn't that right, dicks? So yeah, do all that stuff that you know, you do for YouTube content and come by and join us on Twitch or something. I don't know, I'm not your mum. See you in the next video, bye!